So Congress was left in the dark ahead of these strikes in Venezuela, and now many lawmakers are calling for more transparency and a say in what comes next. Joining us now is Maryland Representative Glenn Ivey. Representative Ivey, Happy New Year to you. I bet you didn't think you'd be starting off talking about something like this. You certainly have said the U.S. shouldn't attempt to run another country and that there is no coherent plan for Venezuela. What specifically do you want to see from the administration moving forward?
Well, they need to have a plan, I would think, moving forward at this point. It became clear during his press conference they had not figured out what would happen after they brought Maduro back to the United States. The legal track seems to be fine. The prosecution there, he was indicted years ago, and I have confidence that career prosecutors will do a good job in prosecuting him. But when the president said that, we were going to run Venezuela and he was comfortable putting boots on the ground, that's a hard stop for me. I think he's having enough trouble running the government here. Trying to expand and run another government at the same time doesn't make any sense. I really don't want us to get into another quagmire either, like we had with, Afghanistan, for example. So hopefully, they're going to start informing Congress as to what they've done so far, what sort of, plans they might have going forward. But it's clear to me that they need additional information and advice and guidance on how to move forward with this, because the diplomatic piece of this has been a real problem so far.
Yeah, it's a little confusing here because the president says this is going to move forward in another way. Secretary Rubio says that's not going to move in the way that the president says. I mean, there seem to be some mixed messages here, which, as you say, need to be cleared up. I understand that the Gang of Eight is going to get some sort of classified briefing tonight. Do you believe that this operation to capture Maduro required explicit congressional authorization? And what do you want to hear?
Probably, but I think first things first. Now that we're in this, let's figure out, what the path forward is, because you've got a government there that ostensibly they were deposing Maduro, but then they left his handpicked vice president in charge of the government and said they were going to work with her. But then the Democratic team that was elected, who I thought they were going to turn to, Trump said at the press conference she didn't have the ability to run the country. She didn't have the gravitas, I think was the term he used. So I'm not sure what they're going to do on that front, but they need to figure that out relatively quickly. I would hope that they would try and move in the Democratic direction. I hope we do not have any kind of boots on the ground scenario, military intervention of any long term. I would be totally opposed to at this point. And I think we have to make sure that we do everything we can in hindsight now to rebuild, sort of a international relationship in support of the efforts to push Venezuela in a democratic direction.
Let's talk a little bit more about that and the role that Congress should be playing at this point now in shaping the U.S. policy toward Venezuela. You talk about diplomacy versus military involvement. What role should Congress play right now?
Yeah, I think it's critical for Congress to sort of restore its power. It's been chipped away over years, and not just by this president, but by Democratic and Republican presidents alike over the years. I think Congress has to reassert its authority on this front, certainly with respect to war powers, but also with respect to appropriations. We have the power of the purse. The Trump administration has been spending money in the way that it wants to, even though they're legally required to spend it in ways that Congress has told them to spend it. We've got to make sure we take that authority back as well. And that's coming up again. We've got another CR issue, coming up at the end of the month. We've got budget fights that we're going to have to work through. Congress is going to have to step up, Republicans in Congress, frankly, and say, you know what, we're an equal branch of government, and we need to have an equal say in how this moves forward.
Can you tell us a bit more before we go? And I know we're all still learning about all of this at the same time, but are there any other specific diplomatic or economic steps that you think Congress can do to push for some stability in Venezuela at this point?
Well, first step, I think, is to get the full briefing on where things actually stand. And that's why the briefing should have taken place before they made the move into Venezuela instead of afterwards, because now we're trying to play catch up with that and trying to make these kinds of diplomatic decisions as you've raised, but not having full information yet. But my sense at this point is you want to try and work with the administration on international aspects of our foreign strategies and things. We want to try and be on the same page, but the administration has to meet us halfway. And so far, they've been kind of on the rogue. A lot of freelancing going on here, and to be really blunt, Trump has not surrounded himself. Hegseth and others are not the type of ideal advisors that you want to have in these kinds of diplomatic scenarios that really could use experienced hands at the wheel. So hopefully he'll be able to work with us again now, Republicans and Democrats in Congress, and we can move forward together in a way that makes the best sense for the United States.
Well, let's hope we are able to get there and get there soon, Congressman Ivey.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time this evening.